Hi everyone, my name is Mark. I'm a teacher here at Your Yoga Flow Studio. And before I forget, please remember to subscribe to our channel to get the updates of the latest new release classes we have. And in the description of this class, there is a special link for you that will take you to some free full-length practices on our platform. So let's begin. Today I wanted to talk about and show you a few different ways that you can use a yoga strap. Now you might have encountered these before and wondered, how do I use this? How do I even put it together? And so I wanted to show you a few different ways that a strap can be really helpful in a yoga practice and also just for kind of a general stretching practice. So first of all, I'll show you a pose that I think we covered in the Hatha Basics class that is up here on YouTube. And what that is a forward fold. Now, when we come into a seated forward fold, depending on the amount of kind of flexibility and range of motion you have in your lower body, you might, like myself, need to bend your knees. So I'm right up on my sit bones, my spine is lengthening, and then I've got my knees a little bit bent. Now for some of us, our hands, as we start to hinge at the hips, land a little bit higher up on the legs. The idea is that over time we begin to fold a little bit more, but we're always sort of limited by the different proportions of our bodies. So sometimes the cue you'll get from a teacher is to reach your hands towards your feet. And for some of us, that's a definite no, and this is where your strap can be really helpful. So you might be able to hold the outer edges of your feet or to kind of scoop up your big toes with your two middle fingers. Or you can loop this strap around the center of your feet. Maybe wind it round about once, not too tight. And then use the traction on the strap as you hinge forward to kind of notice what that feels like in the backs of your legs. Mine are pretty tight today, so I really feel them making themselves known. Again, we're not looking for pain or anything like that in yoga. We're looking for a sensation in this shape, at least, of kind of a gentle stretch. And over time, you can walk your hands a little bit further down the strap so that they're coming closer to your feet. And then maybe over time, even closer till eventually you can reach the outer edges of your feet. But there's a lot to be said for using this strap, whether you can reach your feet or not, because it gives us the kind of like extra long arms, and we can use that leverage to fold in just a little bit more. And so that's one way we can use a strap to help us connect to another part of our body where maybe physically we're not able to. It can also be really great if, for example, you have an injury in one arm and you're not able to reach it forward. You could just use one hand and hold on to both ends of the strap and then fold forward. So it gives us a few more possibilities. Now, the other thing I wanted to show you was using the strap to help find a little bit of a shoulder opening. So another cue we get quite fairly often in a yoga class can be to interlace your hands together behind you. That would look a little something like this, where I clasp the hands behind me, I draw the points of my shoulder blades towards each other, and the hands can stay close to the body, or sometimes the cue is given to lift the hands away from the back of the body. And for some of us, that's super possible, and for others, it's not. We reach behind us and we're maybe not able to connect our hands for a bunch of different reasons. And this is where your trusty strap can come in very handy. So we would take the strap behind us, we would find a distance between the hands that allows us to comfortably find an opening here in the chest and in the front of the shoulders, and then we can start to lift the hands up and away. And over time, just like we did in that seated forward fold, we can walk the hands a little closer together. Notice how that feels. And time again, we can begin to kind of see if we can get those hands even closer, and maybe eventually, or not, but possibly over time, those hands connect and we maybe don't need the strap to help us find that anymore. But this strap is so helpful, especially in these types of shapes. So where that might come into play is in a forward fold, standing forward fold. And sometimes the cue is for what's known as a bound forward fold. So the teacher might say, interlace the hands together behind you, and that would be your cue to reach down, take a hold of your strap, and we use the strap to kind of mimic the interlacing of the hands, and then we bend at the knees here, and we begin to fold forward, and we get all the benefits of interlacing the hands behind us, but we work with our bodies on any given day. And there's sometimes, especially when I've maybe not explored that type of chest or shoulder opening for a while, where I need a strap. Even if I usually can interlace my hands behind me, it can be really helpful. The other thing I wanted to mention is that we can explore different sensations when we use a strap. So for those of us who always interlace our hands together behind us, because we're physically able to at this moment in time, it can be a really fun practice to use a strap and to maybe take your hands wider than normal. So you're finding like a really wide bend here, and the arms will come a little further overhead, and we can play a little bit and notice the different sensations that we're able to create in our bodies by using a prop such as a strap. So props are not always a way for us to accommodate the body. They're also a way to explore different sensations that we physically aren't able to do just because it's very difficult to interlace your hands together and have them far apart. We need a strap for that. So one last thing I wanted to show you before we finish this little tutorial today is how to loop a strap. No one showed me this for the first little while of practicing yoga, and I was super confused as to how when the teacher said loop the strap around a certain part of your body, and you're given something like this that's got a buckle and then just the other end, and then how do they go together? There's no locking mechanism. So I wanted to show you that you take the opposite end of the strap, and make mine nice and neat here, and you take it through one end, and then this middle part comes down, and then this same end of the strap goes through the other, and that creates kind of the locking mechanism. So now we have a big loop, and then for example, the teacher may say make a small loop, so then you make your small loop, you pull it through, and this small loop can be used as a ankle support here in a pose that I'll briefly show you, called dancer's pose, where we can, typically in dancer's pose, the hand comes to the foot, but again, that's not always physically possible, so we can use the strap to help mimic that, to find the shape in a number of different ways, whether it's like this, or whether it's overhead to get a little bit of a shoulder opening. So knowing how to loop your strap ahead of time can be really helpful, because sometimes there's not a moment in the class when it's happening to be able to kind of figure that out. So if you do have a prop at home, maybe you bought a yoga strap because you're kind of curious about exploring more yoga, then take some time to kind of get to know it a little bit so you know the intricacies of how it might work, because there's not always time for the teacher to maybe explain in a class. But looping the strap in different ways, and there's so many fun ways that we can use it in like restorative yoga. We can wear the strap around us to come into certain shapes. So there's a lot of possibilities depending on the form that we make with the strap, but it can be really, it's a helpful yoga prop. And knowing a few things about how you can use it, you can maybe see and play around a little bit in your own practice and notice what use you might have for a yoga strap. So that's it from me today. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to click the link in the description to get exclusive access to full-length practices with all of our faculty members at your Yoga Flow studio. Thanks so much. Bye for now.